Hi, welcome back to Cherry Bepsi. March 11th was the 1-year anniversary of COVID being declared a panoramic, a philharmonic, Panasonic, whatever you personally choose to call it. And I feel like reflecting back on the year, it's just been a really long waiting game. We're all just biding our time. I guess not all of us. I mean, I guess you can't depend on everyone to follow CDC guidelines. But for those of us who have, it's been a very long year. A lot of our time has been taken up trying to basically find ways to pass the time in between trying to make ends meet in the middle of an actual pandemic, and some of us still going to work. And now it's like kind of like the wait to get the vaccine, like when am I gonna be able to get it? It's just like we keep being told to wait and wait and wait. And we'll keep on waiting because, just by doing so, we're actually saving a lot of lives from people who can't afford to stay home, So in the meantime, I'm gonna share with you the ways that I've been primarily keeping busy up until, we can finally get that vaccine. Listen, May 1st, just wait until May 1st, okay? So we're going to talk about the various books and movies that I've been watching and all of my thoughts on them. By the way, my name is Mandeep if you can pronounce it. I basically just make videos on media that I'm interested in. Yeah, there's not really a cohesive thing to my channel, so I guess if you just find me funny and charming, which, I wouldn't be surprised, feel free to subscribe, I also have a Patreon for if you don't get enough parasocial interaction on this channel. It's a lot more engagement, more personalized stuff, and extra bonus content, for stuff that I don't really want to put on this channel. Of course, you can always just like and comment on this video for engagement too, if you want to help out, because algorithm, am I right, ladies? Okay, let me talk about the books that I've read so far. I know a lot of people are like, I don't read books anymore. I used to read a lot because I was a gifted kid in 5th grade and I had a college reading level. And then when you got to college, you're like, well, I've caught up now. What's the point of reading? No, I'm kidding. I know a lot of for a lot of us, it was required reading for school that killed a lot of our motivation to continue reading for pleasure, but I've recently gotten into it again and it's really nice. So I think my main thing was I kept trying to read the young adult stuff that I used to really be into when I stopped reading, and then I was I got so tired and sick of it that I was I don't want to read anymore. But then I was wait, I should probably just read stuff for an older audience, for an older reading level. So that's what I did. I've been really into murder mysteries because honestly they're such easy reads. Why did nobody tell me this? Literally, if you have a reading goal or if you're having trouble finishing a book, just literally read a murder mystery, because the mystery element and the trying to figure out what's going on element will keep you engaged and keep you reading and picking up the book over and over again, so that you finally just finish the book because you want to know what's going on. I mean, I'm not saying the payoff will always be very satisfying to you, but if it's a good enough book, which we'll get into, because I got a few of those books in this video to recommend to you. And also, if you're back to the whole, you're not motivated enough to finish a book, there's always audiobooks, which leads me to the sponsor of the, no, I was kidding. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a channel with 2,000 subscribers getting an Audible sponsorship? I don't know why I think that's so funny, but anyway, but no, for real though. I use Libby. I mean, this isn't sponsored. Libby or Overdrive, I think those both connect to your local public libraries, and you can get audiobooks and ebooks on there. I've mainly been reading ebooks because I can't, my local library has not opened up yet, so that's basically all I've been doing. But yeah, they have audiobook versions of stuff, and it's really nice to read. Like you can like take a walk or something, like, or while you're cooking or doing laundry or just stuff around the house. It's like really easy, and like even if you're just laying in bed, it's like an easy way to finish a book if you can't really bring yourself to read it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's get into the books that I actually did want to talk about. Okay, so I had seen a lot of buzz about this one Japanese mystery writer named, I think it's pronounced Keigo Higashino. Yeah, he has like this series of books called like the Detective Galileo books. And for at least the English translation, I'm pretty sure they didn't translate like the first 2 actual books in the series. So for the English translation, it picks up on book 3, but for us, that's book 1. I don't know, it's whatever. But I mean, I don't feel like I missed out on much. Like it's pretty easy to pick up on like character dynamics and stuff and motivations like as you go. Which is I think one of the biggest strengths of his writing, actually, because I have found in the past that a lot of like murder mysteries I'll read will basically focus on like the one titular character and then like take you through their thought processes and stuff like that. And I think a lot of American like murder mysteries and thrillers rely a lot on like the unreliable narrator trope to like make it an interesting, twisty, suspenseful novel. And like what I appreciated about this is like you get multiple different perspectives. It gives you a very like well-rounded, holistic view of the story and like of the characters and stuff. The first one I read in the series was the first book in the series. Well, I mean, I guess technically it's the third one. Whatever, it's fine. It's called The Devotion of Suspect X, which is already a pretty interesting title, right? It's about a woman who gets into some trouble with her abusive ex-husband, and some event occurs. I'm sure you can guess what it is. I don't think it's a spoiler for me to say that, but you know, I won't give away too much, you know. I'm pretty bad at like accidentally giving away spoilers, so I'm just trying to be extra careful. A woman's ex-husband has been like basically kind of stalking her and stuff. She gets into some kind of altercation with him, and the police end up getting involved, right? And the detective, his detective Kusanagi, is trying to figure out what happened on that day between her and her ex-husband, and some of the pieces aren't really adding up, right? Which is where Detective Galileo will sometimes step in and offer his services. He's actually not like even a consultant or anything. He's a physicist, but like a very smart physicist who's like, you know. And yeah, it was actually very engaging. I finished the whole book in like within a day, and the ending, I will say I shed some tears. And that's all I'll say about that. It did kind of frustrate me, which is why I'm like hoping that some of y'all will go read the book and then we can talk about it together, because nobody I know has read this book. So I'm hoping that at least one of you either has or will. But like my main thing was, well, you're gonna have to suspend a lot of your, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without like totally spoiling everything, but I don't think it's too much of a spoiler for me to say you're gonna have to suspend your disbelief like quite a bit, because the detectives and the cops in this case are like very competent to the point where it's like very unbelievable, you know, but like whatever, it's fine. It's a part of the genre. It's a detective mystery story, whatever. So I'll give it that. It's fine. But it really, at certain points, and honestly, this is actually more of a issue I have with the second book, which I'll also talk about. But at certain points, it really felt like, to me at least, that a lot of what is set up between the two opposing forces in the story, you know, the criminal and the detectives, those two sides, it's very like particular and specific, to the point that neither side would ever be able to pick up on like the intricacies and like the very small little details, which I guess is why they bring in like Detective Galileo and like stuff like that, which is like to try and say like, well, normal people obviously wouldn't be able to do that, but that's why we have these geniuses working the case and stuff. I guess it did kind of give me like Death Note, Light and L vibes. So if you're into that, you know, detective cat and mouse things. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Goodreads as like a platform, but I did give it like 4 out of 5 stars. So, you know, take that as you will. I think in my review I literally put that it's like the perfect cat and mouse thriller, which I still like, I'll stand by. Like, that was pretty good. Yeah, I'm like really trying to like not give away too much, so yeah, we'll just move on from that one. Just make sure you read it, okay? The next book I read was Woman at Point Zero. All right, I just have my laptop out in front of me now, so just to make it easier on like reading the book summaries. But the next book I read was Woman at Point Zero. It's a very short book, honestly, but it's like a very short, dense read. Like, you know, I had to take some points to like kind of put the book down and like take a break from reading. But the premise is basically a woman is sentenced to death, and then from her prison cell, she tells the narrator her story about why she's being sentenced to die, which is for killing a pimp in Cairo. And she basically starts from like her childhood all the way through her entire life up until this point in the prison cell. Her whole childhood being a sex worker, and how that has shaped like her view on the world and stuff like that, and her perceptions of everything and her experiences. It was very interesting, but it is a very heavy read. And it's also actually based on like a real life conversation that the author had with a woman who was on like death row. But yeah, I would recommend that if you're looking for something a little bit more real. And then of course I read the second book in the Detective Galileo series. I'm just realizing that this is like the third translated book I've read. I'm kind of like on a roll. So in this one, I'll just go by whatever the summary on Goodreads tells me, so that I know I'm not accidentally spoiling anyone. In this one, the case that kicks it all off is there was a businessman about to leave his wife, you know, but unexpectedly he is poisoned by what they find to be arsenic in his coffee, right? And so in this type of case, you know, you always suspect the spouse, right? Except his wife was hundreds of miles away when he drank the poison, and it was in a freshly made cup of coffee. So that automatically must rule her out, right? And that's also what the lead detective, Kusanagi, you know, from the first book, what he believes. But there also might be some personal biases at play here, because he's kind of into the lead suspect. She's very elegant and beautiful. And so his like junior detective, Haoru Utsumi, sees that, you know, maybe her superior officer is kind of getting blinded by his emotions. So she enlists the help of Detective Galileo. His actual name is Yukawa, by the way, but you know, just so you know who I'm referring to, I'll just keep on saying Detective Galileo. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It was still a very interesting, engaging read, but my main thing was it relied so much on coincidence. This one wasn't so much a cat and mouse type of story. It was more of a trying to unravel this very convoluted, complex plot that doesn't make any sense, honestly. Like, it just requires so much coincidence and so much like suspension of disbelief that I was like, this is so stupid. And also in this one, actually, there's a lot more incompetence and negligence on the part of the cops, and yet they're never punished for it, is like really like frustrating to me. And I know it's not supposed to be framed that way either, like we're supposed to be on their side. So like, I don't know, it was just like very frustrating for me to read. I will be reading the 3rd book, of course, but I just wanted to get that out there because it was just so, it annoyed me so much. I don't know. Make sure you read it. Oh my god. Okay, this one, I saw it recommended on actually a YouTube series that I watch on like murder mysteries and stuff, and it's called No Exit by Taylor Adams. I loved this book. It was insane. It's like the perfect thriller. It's so fun and easy to read, but it's like it keeps you on the edge of your seat, right? All right, I'll tell you the premise. I feel like the premise is good enough to like hook you in, okay? So it's a thriller about 4 strangers that are snowed in at a rest stop. Our main character, Darby Thorne, she was on her way to like get to her dying mother, who's like dying of like pancreatic cancer or something, and then of course she gets snowed in, you know, right as her mother is like going into surgery. So she's gonna have to wait there until the snow clears up, which is in about like 10 hours, which is insane. So while she's there, there's like 4 other people at the rest stop. You know, she's not in the most social of moods. She's just trying to get through the night. And then when she goes out to try and like make a call to like, you know, one of her family members to see how her mother, to like check on her mother's condition and everything, she takes a glance inside one of the cars that's parked out in the parking lot, and she sees a little girl tied up in the back of the car. And she's like, what the fuck, right? And so, and like, it's obvious that the girl's like tied up, right? Like she was kidnapped and everything. So now Darby has to figure out who out of the 4 strangers inside has kidnapped this little girl. And not only that, but she also has to make sure that they don't know that she knows, because remember, they've been snowed in at this rest stop. So it's gonna be like 10 hours until anyone can leave, and also 10 hours until the cops are able to get to them even. Because like, again, she has no cell service. Like she tries texting 911, but like nothing happens. So it's gonna be, she's in for the long haul. So that's basically the premise. And that was enough to hook me in. I was like, that's insane. Let's go. Again, it's super easy. This one was like probably my fastest read. It was like 4 hours I was in. And like, okay, so I read some of the reviews, and a lot of people had problems with the main character and how like she made a lot of questionable decisions throughout the night. You know how it is, you know, like you're hopped up on adrenaline, you make some poor choices or you make stupid choices and blah, 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 but it's like, whatever, you know? But I think it works pretty well because it's kind of almost relevant to the plot, because it's established pretty early on that Darby, the main character, has pretty bad luck, and that the person that she's like facing off against kind of has very good luck. So I feel like that's enough of like an explanation, an in-world explanation for me to like kind of write off a lot of like the stupid decisions she makes, you know? Like, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Goodreads rating system, but I did give it 4 stars, so it's like whatever, you know? I really enjoyed it, you know? It's a fun read, really easy. I finished it in a few hours, and like I think I just personally love stories that take place like over one night in like one set location, you know? And I feel like the author, Taylor Adams, did that very well. So yeah, I will say that some of the characters, they're written to be like, you know, racially insensitive or whatever. So they do make some like, very off-color jokes. Mainly like involving racial slurs, joking about domestic abuse and stuff like that. There's only a few in the book, but you know, trigger warning for child trafficking. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a fun read. Okay, next up, let's talk about the movies that I watched. So I watched Demon Knight. I actually watched this one because of a video by my good YouTube friend, Aishyo. God, I hope I said that right. But yeah, they have a really good video talking about this old movie from like the 90s called Demon Knight, starring Jada Pinkett Smith, Billy Zane, and some other white guys. Honestly, if you want to know more about it, I would recommend watching the video. But it was really fun, honestly. Like, if you're looking like a fun, campy horror movie to watch, it's like super fun and includes the first black final girl, which is why I ended up watching it. If you're looking for something where it's like, you don't want like a rom-com, but you do want something that's like easy, this is for you. Next up, I actually watched that Netflix movie, Namaste, Wahala, with the intention of making a video on it because, like, hello, interracial love, where one of the leads is not a white person, and they're so attractive. Like, literally, they're so attractive. Like, oh my god. And I ended up not making a video on it because it wasn't, I'm not gonna say it was bad, but it wasn't great, and I couldn't figure out what to say about it that wasn't, wow, what wasted potential, because the leads, again, so attractive, but they had so much chemistry, and I love like the idea of like these two people meeting, falling in love, and then they have like conflict pushback from both of their like very traditional families and stuff, but like the families, which is supposed to be like a part of the conflict, end up taking up the entire story in the movie, and I felt it just kind of became like a drag to watch after that, and I was just like, I didn't want to make a video if I was just gonna end up saying like not much of substance other than it had a lot of potential. But you know, that was kind of disappointing. But hopefully this movie at least signals like a trend toward more diverse movies in general, and interracial couples that aren't just between a person of color and a white person. And again, the leads, very attractive. Next up, I actually watched an older movie called A New Leaf. Let me actually look up a little. From like 1971, directed by actress turned director Elaine May, one of like the first female directors in at least in like Hollywood. And it's about a very self-absorbed man named Henry Graham, played by Walter Matthau, who he's very much like a trust fund baby, and he ends up like wasting away all of his fortunes, just like kind of pissing it away, being rich, doing what rich people do, and he doesn't work at all. So he gets to a point where like all of his money is running out, right? And so he doesn't want to give up his lavish lifestyle. So he's like, it would be better for, I mean, I guess it is a very dark comedy. I mean, I will warn you that the movie does, you know, kind of lightly joke about suicide and murder, but it's, you know, it's all in good fun. But I mean, if you are sensitive to that, I wouldn't recommend watching it. But so he's like, it would be better for me, instead of being poor and living this way, it would be better for me to just to be unalive. And but then his butler gives him an idea, which is find a woman, a rich woman, not a lot of family, lots of money, not too bright, right? Marry her, and then you'll inherit all of her wealth, right? You won't be poor anymore. And like, you know, you're a bachelor, you can stand to like marry someone. And then Henry Graham is like, that's a great idea, but I think I'm gonna push it that one extra step too far, and I'm gonna murder the woman that I marry so that I can just have all of her wealth and I don't need to actually be married. And so that's when he comes across Elaine May's character, Henrietta Lowell. She's like very awkward, very like not ladylike, and nerdy, and also an heiress to like millions of dollars, right? So, you know, they have like a whole romance, you know, and Henry Graham goes about trying to commence with his plan. But as things like this often go, things don't go exactly according to plan. And honestly, this was like such a fun movie. I like genuinely thought it was like very funny. I laughed out loud multiple times. You can actually rent it for like a few dollars on YouTube, which is where I ended up watching it, because it was like good quality captions, everything, you know, it's just very convenient. And so it's like a dark comedy, right? And it was like genuinely funny. Like I was like actually like laughing out loud at multiple times. Even movies today that bill themselves as comedies have like a hard time making me laugh. You know, I'll kind of do like the little nose laugh, the little breath laugh. But like this one, I was like legit laughing out loud. I was legit LOLing. I feel like even if they made this movie today, the jokes would still work well. There is like one weird part where like they go to an island and then there's like a brief 2-second flash where there's like Native Americans. I don't want to say it's perfect, you know, I had a great time watching. And there was actually a bit of drama behind the scenes that I heard about with this particular movie, which is like Elaine May's original script was a lot darker. It was still a dark comedy, but it had a lot more darker elements and stuff. And then the studio ended up like taking the whole project from her, like the finished project that she had like filmed and everything, cutting it up and then releasing it to theaters. And she ended up famously actually hating it so much that she sued the studio. But I don't know. I mean, I feel kind of conflicted about that because normally you would like be on the side of like the director because it's like their vision and everything. And while I do wish I could have been able to like watch like what her original vision was, I still think that like A New Leaf is still like a very good movie. Like it's just still so well done and fun to watch. So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of like a testament to like how good her original screenplay was. And then of course I watched both Princess Diaries movies. Still classics, love them. The second movie really like redefined what a fun romance was for me. Like, wow. Also young Chris Pine, am I right, ladies? I rewatched Anastasia. Loved that. Okay, yeah, this video is really long, so I think I'm gonna stop there, even though I do have more movies that I watched, but maybe I'll, you know, talk about those on Patreon or something. But yeah, so that's some media that I've been using to take up some of my time while we wait for the vaccine, while we wait for life to continue, basically. Yeah, check those out if, you know, any of them sounded interesting to you. Even, you know, even the ones that I was a little bit more critical of, I actually like enjoyed everything that I mentioned in this video. So if it sounded interesting to you, I would definitely check it out, because like, I mean, what else do you have to do? But yeah, so don't forget to like the video for engagement, and actually let me know like what y'all have been reading and like what movies you've been watching. Anything that sounds like kind of similar to anything I mentioned in here, or just stuff that you think I would like. You know, I'm always looking for recommendations. So, you know, let me know. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and also hit the bell notification. I don't know if y'all knew this, but on my analytics, I can actually see how many people have clicked the bell icon. There's like a percentage and everything. And my average is kind of low. So I would love to get my analytics up, even though literally nobody else can see it except for me, but I'm very competitive. So, yeah, if you would like to do that, I guess. I won't pressure you, but I mean, why not? You know, it's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna cost you anything. But what will cost you is my Patreon, because again, we got exclusive content, sneak previews of interesting, exciting stuff, and bonus content. My next Patreon exclusive video, I think, is gonna be a video on why I hate Stephen King. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out my Patreon link in the description. Thank you for watching.